Hey guys, welcome back for another video. We got a good one prepared for you today. We got an NFL one prepared. We're going to go over our NFL predictions for week 9 of the 2024 NFL football season. We're going to go over every single game, break them all down, and try to predict the outcome for the game. Who's going to win, who's going to lose, and what we predict the final score will be. We will also touch on the money lines, the spreads, and the over-unders. And make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. If you have any comments about these games or anything else, please drop them below, and I will respond. Every week we go over every single NFL game, and we also do the best bets, the money lines, the spreads, and the over-unders. And we do the same thing for every college football game as well. If you are a football fan in general, if you are a sports fan, make sure to hit that like button, make sure to subscribe, and please drop a comment if you have anything that you want to discuss further. Let's go ahead and get started. Let's take a look at our games. We have some good ones coming up. We have a lot of injuries too, a lot of unknowns here. Kicking things off is our Thursday game, our Amazon Prime game at 8:15, October 31st. We have the 6-2 Houston Texans. They are banged up. They're now without Diggs. Nico, I think, should probably start possibly coming back next week. They'll be playing the 2-6 New York Jets. The Jets have a 48.9% chance to win this game, but it's the Jets who are favored here, probably due to all of the wide receiver injuries for the Texans. Right now, the Jets are 1.5-point favorites. They are at home. The over-under here is 42 points. Looking at the Texans, this is a very talented team, but they are banged up. They're going to be led by Stroud. He's closing in on 2,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, 4 picks. And, of course, the Jets have Aaron Rodgers, not having his best season so far, but a lot of that's not his fault. He has been hitting some guys right in the hands, and they're dropping wide open passes. Rodgers closing in on 1,900 yards, 12 touchdowns, 7 picks. They've had a lot of things going on. Fired their coach, got rid of their offensive coordinator. So they've been juggling a lot of different changes. How do they adapt to that as they get more and more comfortable? They need a win here bad. They're running a really long losing streak. The Jets cannot afford, just for respect purposes, to drop to 2-7. Right now, the Texans are averaging 23.5 points a game. They throw for 232.5. They run for 118.9. And a pretty decent defense, giving up 22.4 points a game. For the Jets, they're averaging 18.8. That's pretty much been pretty solid the whole season, pretty stationary. They have to get that up. They need to get the run game going. The offensive line has to open up some holes so they can finally use some play action. They're averaging 18.8 points a game, throwing for 224, but only running for 86.1. That's not going to cut it in the NFL. They got to get the run game going. They have a top 10 defense giving up 21.3 points a game. Looking at the playmakers here, Texans, they have Stroud, and they have Mixon closing in on 600 yards. Nico Collins is still the leading receiver, closing in on 600 yards, but obviously he should not be playing this game. And for the Jets, they have Rodgers, they have Breece Hall, they have Garrett Wilson, they have Lazard, and they added Devontae Adams, who could be a difference maker on those third down situations. This game could go either way because the Texans are so beat up, but I have them pulling out a win here. A very close win, winning this one 24-20. But this game to me is going to be close down to the final minutes. And now moving on to our Sunday slate of games on Fox at 1 p.m. We have the 3-4 Dallas Cowboys. They need a win bad. They need to get back to 500. If they drop this one and go to 3-5, there's going to be massive pressure on Dak, Jerry Jones, and especially on Mike McCarthy. His seat's going to be on fire. They'll be playing the 5-3 Atlanta Falcons, who still, their offense is completely clicking. Since their Game 1 performance, Kirk Cousins has become more and more comfortable in this offense. They have one of the better offensive rosters in all of football. Right now, the Falcons have a 58.6% chance to win this game. They are 2.5-point favorites, and the over-under here is 49.5. When you're looking at the Cowboys, what else could potentially go wrong with this team? They have so many issues. It's not just one thing. It's running back. It's offensive line. It's wide receivers outside of CeeDee Lamb. And it's that defense is awful. One of the worst bottom 3 in the NFL. Right now, the Cowboys are led by Dak Prescott, closing in on 1,900 yards, 10 touchdowns, 8 picks. Falcons, they're led by Kirk Cousins, closing in on 2,200 yards, 14 touchdowns, 7 picks. Everything is setting up for the Falcons to win this game. They have the roster. They have more to play for, but the Cowboys, they have to be desperate here. They need a win so bad. They're averaging 21.4 points a game, throwing for 256, the worst rushing team in the NFL, only averaging 74.1 yards on the ground. That was their strength 3 years ago, was the line, the running game, the defense. All 3 of those are now their weakness. They need a complete roster overhaul. When you can't run the ball, There's no play action. Too much pressure on Dak to have to vertically throw the ball down the field. And outside of CeeDee Lamb, they don't have a good enough wide receiver core to do that. For the Falcons, they average 24.3. They throw for 250.9. They run for 120.8. And their defense giving up 24.4 points per game. Looking at the roster here, the Cowboys, they have Dowdle closing in on 250 rushing yards. He's the leading rusher. He's averaging about 25 to 30 rushing yards a game. That's just pathetic. And they have CeeDee Lamb. And for Atlanta, they are loaded. Cousins, Bijan Robinson, Algier, London, Mooney, Pitts, multiple weapons, quarterback, running back, wide receiver, tight end. Everything is setting up for the Falcons to win this game. I had them winning it in my early predictions video, but now I think when it sets up too much, there's going to be an upset here. Cowboys win this one 28-24 on the road. And then our next one at 1 p.m. on Fox, we have the 2-6 Las Vegas Raiders versus the 3-5 Cincinnati Bengals. The Bengals need this win bad. We had them losing this past weekend. They need to continue to work their way back to 500. Started out the season really awful, got a winning streak going, dropped one this past weekend, but they need to continue using that as a foundational building block. Keep chipping away each game, game by game. They should win this one. They are heavy favorites here. 65.2% chance to win this game. 7.5-point favorites. The over-under is 44.5. Looking at the roster here for the Raiders, they really don't have anything working for them. They don't have a good offense. They don't have a good defense. They've been shuffling quarterbacks. They have Gardner Minshew. They have O'Connell. I've been saying the whole season, roll with Gardner Minshew. At least he gives you the opportunity to score. He might turn the ball over, but at least you'll get some touchdowns. He's closing in on 1,400 yards, 6 touchdowns, 8 picks. For the Bengals, Joe Burrow having a great season right now, closing in on 2,000 yards, 15 touchdowns, 3 picks. The Raiders, they average 18 a game. They throw for 209. Running for 79 yards per game. That's almost as bad as the Cowboys. They got to get the rushing yards up. They're giving up 26.3 points per game, 189 through the air, 129.9 on the ground. There's going to be opportunities for the Bengals to get aggressive here. Right now, the Bengals are averaging 24.4, throwing for 235.5, running for 89.8. They also, a lot of teams need to concentrate on that rushing game this season. It's a quarterback's best friend, but thankfully for the Bengals, they have an elite wide receiver core. A little banged up, but they are veterans, but they are giving up 25.4 points a game. So maybe that will give the Raiders some opportunities to score here because the Bengals don't have a very good defense. Looking at the roster, Las Vegas, they have Minshew, they have Madison. Brock Bowers having a great season so far, but they did trade Adams. That veteran wide receiver presence is now gone. For the Bengals, they have Burrow, they have Chase, they have Brown, and they have Higgins. Wide receiver core is banged up, but if everyone can get on that field, Burrow should be able to pick the Raiders apart. I have the Bengals winning. That is a massive spread for an NFL game, but I still have the Bengals pulling things off here, winning this one 33-23. And then on Fox at 1 p.m., the 6-2 Washington Commanders. What a win they had in Week 8. The Hail Mary win, that was awesome. Props to Jaden Daniels. The big issue there was outside of that Hail Mary touchdown, a lot of field goals, but the Bears did have a very solid defense. But they'll be playing a decent defense this week, and they'll be playing the 2-5 New York Giants, who completely have to rip the Band-Aid off. The massive issue is the quarterback position. Outside of that, they're not a bad team. They just need someone who can consistently spread the ball to the playmakers. Right now, the Commanders are heavy favorites here. 65.3% chance to win this game. 3.5-point favorites. The over-under is 41.5. We know that even though outside of that Hail Mary touchdown, it was all field goals, the Commanders still have one of the best offenses in all of the NFL. A top 5 offense. They average 29.5 points a game. They throw for 230.5. They run for 165.8. Their defense has been playing really solid the last 4 games. They are giving up 20.9 points a game. But they're going to be led by Jaden Daniels. He was banged up this past weekend. Still, he got his team the win. He's closing in on 1,800 yards, 7 touchdowns, 2 picks, and that's not even accounting for his mobility. Right now, the Giants are led by Daniel Jones, closing in on 1,800 yards, 6 touchdowns, 5 picks. He is not the guy. Bottom 5 offense in the NFL. They average 14.6 points a game. They throw for 195. They run for 108.5. But their defense can keep them in a lot of these games, and they are home. They give up 21.9 points a game. But they could potentially upset this game. very talented team. They have the defense. Looking at the roster, they have Neighbors, they have Tracy Jr., Singleton when he's healthy, and for the Commanders, they have Brian Robinson Jr., they have Terry. I have Washington pulling out a close one and winning this one 24-20. And then at 1 p.m. on Fox, we have the 2-6 New England Patriots versus the 1-6 Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans, one of our last remaining one-win teams, but they are the favorites here, a 61.9% chance to win this game. They are 3.5-point favorites. The over-under in this matchup is 42.5. For the Patriots, the big question here is who's going to be starting at quarterback. Drake May did get that concussion this past week, so it could be Drake May, could be Jacoby Brissett. If it's Drake May, he's closing in on 600 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 picks. He gets more touchdowns than Brissett, but Brissett doesn't turn the ball over very much. But the Patriots, if we knew who was going to be starting the quarterback, would probably be coming into this game as the favorite, but the unknown makes them the underdog. Right now, the Patriots average 15.5 points a game. They throw for 149.9. They run for 111.1, and their defense giving up 24.6 points a game. For Tennessee, they don't have a bad defense. They don't have a great defense. The issue is turnovers, especially coming from the quarterback position. Right now, they're only averaging 17.1 points a game. Will Levis closing in on 700 yards, 5 touchdowns, and 7 picks. They cannot turn the ball over too much. Patriots defense, when they have time, when their offense can keep them off the field to rest, they can actually generate some stops. Right now, Tennessee, they throw for 161.9, they run for 119.7, and their defense is giving up 28 points a game. Looking at the playmakers for the Patriots, they have Stevenson, but he can't carry this team. They also have Hunter Henry, and for Tennessee, they have Pollard, they have Ridley. I have the Patriots pulling the upset here, taking this one from Tennessee 20-17, but it's going to be a close one. And our next matchup is going to be a fun one. We're going to have an offensively focused team versus a defensively focused team. On 1 p.m. on CBS, we have the 5-3 Denver Broncos who come into this game with a top 5 overall defense versus the 5-3 Baltimore Ravens who have a top 3 offense. Right now, the Ravens heavy favorites, 74.8% chance to win this game, 9.5-point favorites. I do not like those massive NFL spreads. The over-under here is 45.5. Looking at Denver, they're going to be led by Bo Nix. Since his first 2 games where it was really sloppy, he's played a lot better. They're keeping things within his skill set. Sean Payton is not asking him to do anything he can't do. Dink and dunk passes, keep the game short, move the pocket, roll him out, and use his mobility. He's closing in on 1,600 yards, 8 touchdowns, 5 picks. But Lamar Jackson is putting up MVP caliber numbers this season, potentially looking for his 3rd MVP. He's closing in on 2,100 yards, 17 touchdowns, and only 2 picks, and that's not even accounting for his rushing numbers. Right now, Denver, they average 21.6. They throw for 185.9. They run for 121.4, but it's that defense only giving up 15 points a game, 176.3 through the air, 106.4 on the ground. For Baltimore, a top 3 offense. They average 30.3 points a game, probably the most balanced offense in the NFL. They throw for 252.1. They run for 200 yards a game. Their defense is giving up 26.1. They do leave a lot to be desired on the defensive side. Almost every game could potentially turn into a shootout. But Denver doesn't have the offense to match them blow for blow. But can they slow down the Ravens' offense? Right now, Denver's defense, one of the worst secondaries, giving up 291.4 yards through the air, but only 69.9 yards on the ground. You can throw on them, but you cannot run on them. But can they slow down Bo Nix and his scrambling ability? Right now for Denver, they have Williams, they have Sutton. Baltimore, the number 1 rushing team last season, and they added Derrick Henry to that. He's closing in on 1,000 yards on the ground through the first 8 games. They also have Flowers, Andrews, Likely. Lamar Jackson has 19 total touchdowns, 2 rushing. I have Baltimore winning this one, but it's going to go down to the 4th quarter. But they win it 27-20. And then on CBS at 1 p.m., the 2-5 Miami Dolphins, they finally got Tua back. He did add a lot of light to the offense, but the defense actually failed them this past game. Nonetheless, Miami sits at 2-5. They'll be playing the 6-2 Buffalo Bills. This is a divisional matchup here. This is the game a couple weeks ago that knocked Tua out for that 4-5 game stretch. But the Dolphins should be much improved. Hill, Waddle, Berrios, very talented offensive squad. But the Bills are heavy favorites here. 72% chance to win this game, 6.5-point favorites. The over-under in this matchup is 49 points. Looking at Miami, they have Tua back. Tua looked really good. He didn't really have too much rust off his very first possession. They went right down the field and scored. But Buffalo, they have Josh Allen. He's closing in on 1,800 yards, 14 touchdowns, only one pick. He finally got his first interception in Week 8. We know the guy's a gunslinger. He's playing very conservative this season, not forcing the ball too much, and they are putting up great numbers so far. Right now, the Dolphins come in, they're averaging 13.9, but a lot of that was without Tua, so they're much better than that 2-5 record. They throw for 186.3, they run for 131.7, and their defense is giving up 22.4 points a game for Buffalo. They have a top 5 offense, they have a top 10 defense. Right now, they average 28.8 points a game. They throw for 214.3, they run for 122.3, and they're giving up 18.3 points a game. Dolphins are going to be much better than they were the first time they played, but I don't think they have the firepower right now on defense to be able to slow down the Bills and make this game closer. But they do have Achin, Mostert, Hill, Waddle, Berrios, multiple weapons, one of the better offensive rosters in all of football. And for Buffalo, they have Allen, Cook, Shakir, Coleman, and they added Cooper to that mix. He's the veteran presence you need on those third and long situations. I have the Buffaloes winning this one 28-23, but Miami will make it a game first half. And then on CBS at 1 p.m., the 2-6 New Orleans Saints, thankfully for them, they do get Derek Carr back. They started out the season averaging 45 points a game, 2-0 their first 2 games. Then they completely fell off the rails. They're riding a 6-game losing streak, but hopefully Carr coming back should reignite the offense. And Olave should potentially also be playing here. They'll be playing the 1-7 Carolina Panthers. Who else to get you restarted to end the losing streak than to play the Carolina Panthers? They were the worst team in the NFL last season. They're the worst team in the NFL this season. They sit at 1-7. Right now, the Saints have a 70.4% chance to win this game. 7-point favorites. The over-under here is 40.5. Looking at the matchup here, you have Carr closing in on 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns, 4 picks. For the Panthers, Dalton's probably going to be back at the quarterback position. If not, it will be Bryce Young. Right now, Dalton's closing in on 1,000 yards, 7 touchdowns, 6 picks. The Saints as a team, they're averaging 23.1. They throw for 203. They run for 116, and their defense giving up 25.8 points a game. They are actually not a bad roster, a pretty good roster. Their issue is getting everyone on the same page at the right time. But they do give up 250 passing yards and almost 150 rushing yards per game. They got to get those numbers lower. That's way too high, but thankfully for them, the Panthers do not have a good offense at all to be able to take advantage of the Saints defense. They're only averaging 15.5 per game. They throw for 177.9. They run for 104. And their defense, the worst in the NFL. It's not even close. They give up 33.9 points a game. All of those things should help the Saints score some points here. I have the Saints winning this one 23-17. And then on CBS at 1 p.m., the 4-3 LA Chargers bringing in a top 5 defense right now. Chargers are going to be hard to move the ball on. They get after it, and they love to run the ball. This is a Harbaugh-led team. They play defense, special teams, and they run the ball. They'll be playing the 2-6 Cleveland Browns. The Browns finally got their second win of the season. Jameis Winston completely lit this team up offensively. They were finally able to vertically push the ball down the field. But the big question is, can he do it for 2 straight weeks? Namely, can he do it versus a ball-hawking Chargers defense? The Browns actually have a 53.9% chance to win this game, but the Chargers are 2-point favorites. The over-under here is 42.5. This game is really setting up to be a lower-scoring trench warfare. It's going to be decided at the line of scrimmage who can control the clock and the run game. Right now, the Chargers, they have Justin Herbert closing in on 1,500 yards, 8 touchdowns, 1 pick. He hasn't been asked to do too much this season. If you need him to score, though, he's more than capable of taking this team right down the field and scoring. Winston leading the way for the Browns, closing in on 500 yards, 4 touchdowns, 0 picks. He might be due for a turnover game just because that's the Jameis Winston way. Right now, the Chargers, they average 18.9 points per game. They pass for 194. They run for 117.1, but they're giving up 13 points a game. That's a top 5 defense in the NFL, and the Browns are averaging 17.3. Throwing for 179.8, running for 92.5. Their defense gives up 23.3, but their defense is a lot better than that number. Do not be fooled by the 23.3. That's with Deshaun Watson leaving them on the field the entire game. If they can get first downs on offense, that takes a lot of pressure off of the defense. But still, I have the Chargers being able to control this game. They have Herbert. They have J.K. Dobbins. They have McClunky. They should be able to run the ball, control the clock, play solid defense, get the short field. Chargers win it 20-17. Then at 4:05 p.m. on CBS, the 4-3 Chicago Bears versus the 4-4 Arizona Cardinals. Right now, the Cardinals have a 49.9% chance to win this game. This game is practically a 50-50, practically a push 'em. Right now, the Cardinals are 1-point favorite. Over/under here is 47.5. This is going to be a quarterback matchup. Caleb Williams versus Kyler Murray, two Heisman-winning quarterbacks. Right now, Caleb Williams, since his Week 1 performance, has been getting better every single week, but he needs to get a road win here, needs to get this team back to 5-3. They let one slip from their fingers this past weekend. How do they respond here on the road versus the Cardinals? Caleb Williams closing in on 1,500 yards, 9 touchdowns, 5 picks. And for Kyler Murray, having a great season so far, closing in on 1,700 yards, 11 touchdowns, 3 picks. For the Bears, they are a defensively focused team, but they can't score. They're averaging 23.3 points a game. They pass for 184.4. They run for 117.9, but their defense is only giving up 17 points a game. They are going to look to make it difficult for the Cardinals to be able to move the ball, especially running the ball. Right now, the Cardinals average 22.3. They throw for 196.8. They run for 141.8. One of the better balanced offenses in the NFL. But their defense gives up 25.6 points a game. There's going to be opportunities for the Bears to throw the ball because the Cardinals give up 235.6 passing yards, 140.9 rushing yards. Chicago should be able to move the ball, should be able to get first downs. Can they generate those first downs into scores, though, not just settling for field goals? Right now, the Bears, they have Williams, they have Swift, they have Moore, they have Odunze, and the Cardinals, they have Kyler Murray, they have James Conner having a great season. They have Terry McBride. Marvin Harrison Jr. should be fully going this game. That could make the difference here, but I have the Bears defense getting a stop when they need it, making up for that Hail Mary touchdown this past weekend. They win a close one, 24-20. And then on CBS at 4:05 p.m., the 2-6 Jacksonville Jaguars, who almost had a win, they let it slip right through their fingers in Week 8. They'll be playing the 5-2 Philadelphia Eagles, who have a 68.5% chance to win this game. The Eagles are cruising right now on both sides of the ball. The offense is playing well, but namely, they've cut down on the turnovers. That's been a problem that's plagued them since the second half of last season. They are playing solid football, establishing the run game, and their defense has really picked up the last 5 games. They are 7.5-point favorites here at home, 47.5 over/under. Looking at the Jags, Trevor Lawrence is having a better season than when he started out. Really good the last couple weeks, but it's the turnovers. He had a very costly fumble versus the Packers. He's closing in on 1,900 yards, 11 touchdowns, 4 picks. And for the Eagles, they have Hurts, closing in on 1,600 yards, 8 touchdowns, 4 picks. He's not forcing things, though. He's taking what the defense gives you. You have one of the best running backs in the country. Ride him, ride your defense. Right now, Jacksonville, they're averaging 21.5, throwing for 213.8, running for 120, and they're giving up 28 points a game. That's a pretty bad defense. That's their Achilles heel right now is their defense. 271.1 passing yards given up per game. That's one of the bottom 3 secondaries in the nation. There's going to be opportunities for the Eagles to push the ball. If you put them in third and long, they're going to be able to find guys open down the field. Right now, the Eagles are averaging 24.1, throwing for 201, running for 165.9, one of the better rushing teams in the country, a top 5 rushing team, and their defense is also top 10, giving up 18.9 points a game. They're going to make it hard for the Jags. Expect several turnovers here. For Jacksonville, they have Lawrence, they have Bigsby. They actually have a solid wide receiver core. Brian Thomas Jr., Kirk, Philadelphia, they have Hurts. Saquon Barkley closing in on 800 yards on the ground. They have A.J. Brown. They have Devontae Smith. One of the best, a top 3 wide receiver core. I have the Eagles winning this one, 28-20. The game of the weekend at 4:25 p.m. on Fox. The 6-1 Detroit Lions, who are potentially setting up right now as the best team in the NFL, versus the 6-2 Green Bay Packers, who are going right there with them blow for blow. Big question here is Jordan Love going to play? And if he does play, what version of Jordan Love will he get? Will he be 100% or will he be limited at 80%? Right now, the Lions, they have a 61.3% chance to win this game, 3-point favorites. Over-under is 47.5. But this is 2 of the best teams in the NFL facing off. This is a playoff caliber matchup. The Lions are led by Goff, closing in on 1,700 yards, 13 touchdowns, 4 picks, and the Packers are led by Jordan Love, closing in on 1,600 yards, 15 touchdowns, and 9 picks right now. The Lions, they're averaging 33.4 points a game, the number one offense in the NFL, throwing for 228.4, running for 156.7, and only giving up 19.1 points per game. There are opportunities to pass on the Lions, but you gotta have time to be able to find those targets downfield. They have a very good pass rush. And for Green Bay, they also have a top 5 offense. They're averaging 27 points a game, throwing for 231.1, running for 156.9. Both of these teams are very balanced offenses. They can both throw the ball, they can both run the ball, and they also bring a great defense here, giving up 21.3 points per game. 2 stacked rosters. Lions have Goff, Gibbs, Montgomery, St. Brown. Multiple ways they can beat you. Quarterback, running back. They can beat you with their defense. Packers are loaded as well. Love, Jacobs, Reed. Just is Love going to be playing? That's the unknown here. If he plays, this game could go down to the final possession, could come down to a turnover or a touchdown on that final possession. Whoever has the ball last could win this game. I have the Lions pulling it out, winning 30-27. A very close, very entertaining game to watch. And then on Fox at 4:25, the 3-4 LA Rams. This is not the LA Rams of a month ago. When they are healthy, when they have Cooper Kupp, when they have Nakua, Atwell, Williams, that takes this offense to another level. Without Cooper, without Nakua, they lose this game. But with them, that makes them a favorite here versus the 4-4 Seattle Seahawks. Right now, the Rams are 1.5-point favorites. They have a 50.3% chance to win this game. It is a very close one. Could come down to that final score here. 2 very talented teams. The over-under is 45.5. But the game is basically a pick-em. Right now, the Rams are led by the veteran Stafford, closing in on 1,700 yards, 7 touchdowns, 5 picks. And Seattle has Geno Smith closing in on 2,200 yards, 8 touchdowns, 7 picks. The Rams, they average 20.6 points per game. They throw for 222.3. They run for 101.3. Their defense is giving up 24.9. Seattle, right there with them, they average 23.8. They throw for 262.1. They run for 89.3. And their defense is giving up 24.4 points per game. This game could go either way. Practically a pick 'em. It's a 50-50 matchup here. But the Rams, when healthy, have one of the better offensive rosters. Stafford, Williams, Atwell, Cooper Kupp, Nakua. Multiple ways they can beat you, passing the ball, running the ball. They cannot beat you on defense, though. That can make the difference. For Seattle, they have Geno Smith. They have Kenneth Walker. They have DK Metcalf. I have the Rams continuing to stay hot with their reinvigorated offensive roster. They win it 28-24. And this next one's also setting up to be a good one. Our final Sunday night game at 8:20, we have the 4-4 Colts versus the 5-2 Minnesota Vikings. This game's going to be on NBC. Right now, the Colts, they are going with Joe Flacco. I've been saying the whole season Flacco should have been the starting quarterback. Richardson is just not accurate with the quarterback. Flacco takes the offense to another level because he opens it up, because he can vertically push the ball down the field, which is going to open up the run game. The running game will then open up the play action. They both complement one another. They'll be playing the Vikings. The Vikings are the favorites here, 5.5-point favorites. They have a 62.1% chance to win this game. The over-under is 47.5. Vikings started out 5-0. They're riding a 2-game losing streak. Can they take this game, get things back on track? Looking at the numbers here, you have Flacco closing in on 800 yards, 7 touchdowns, 1 pick, and Darnold closing in on 1,700 yards, 14 touchdowns, 5 picks. One of the surprise players of the season so far. The Colts, they average 21.9. They throw for 198. They run for 128, and their defense is giving up 21.5 points a game. For Minnesota, they're averaging 26.9. That's a top 10 offense. They throw for 213.6. They run for 111.4, and their defense is giving up 19.6. That's a top 10 defense. Their biggest weakness is they give up 263 passing yards per game. There may be opportunities for the veteran Flacco to find those targets down the field, but they're going to make it hard for the Colts to be able to run on them. They're only giving up 83.9 yards on the ground. It's one of the best, the top 5 rush defenses in the country. Looking at the playmakers here, you have Flacco. Jonathan Taylor should be healthy. He can run it. He can catch the ball out the backfield. That's a quarterback's best friend, someone they can dump the ball off to, and they have Pierce. For the Vikings, they have Darnold, they have Jones, they have Justin Jefferson, a top 3 wide receiver. The Vikings have to rebound here. They need this game. You don't want to underestimate Flacco's big arm and the Colts. But I have the Vikings winning a closer one here to the fourth quarter. They take it 27-20. And this next matchup could have been a really fun one, but the Buccaneers, they're just limping into this. So many injuries. Our Monday night game, the final game, ESPN 8:15, 4-4 Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the 7-0 undefeated reigning Super Bowl champs, the Kansas City Chiefs, who have a 64.7% chance to win this game. Massive favorites here, 8.5-point favorites. The over-under is 45.5. For the Buccaneers, they are one of the best passing teams in the nation. They had Godwin, who was leading the team in receptions. They have Evans, who should not be playing this game. Godwin is out for the season. Their two primary targets are gone. That's a massive loss for Baker Mayfield. But Baker Mayfield showed this past week he can still move the ball. It's just you have to expect those massive weapons being out to affect you when you're playing a defense the caliber of the Chiefs. Right now, Baker Mayfield closing in on 2,200 yards, leads the nation with 21 touchdowns, 9 picks. Patrick Mahomes having his worst season of his NFL career, closing in on 1,700 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 9 picks. But he has that defense, which is a Super Bowl caliber defense, that's going to keep them in all of these games. Give him the short field every single possession. If you need him to score, do not underestimate him. He'll go right down the field. He will score. At some point, he's bound to turn it on. Right now, Tampa Bay, they're averaging 29.4 per game, throwing for 258.5, running for 131, and their defense is giving up 26.4 points per game, 255 passing yards. There's going to be opportunities for the Chiefs to push the ball down the field through the air. For Kansas City, they're averaging 24.7 a game, throwing for 225.9, running for 122.1. They've been pretty banged up with injuries. Rice, Pacheco, banged up. But even then, they still have a lot of playmakers here, and their defense only giving up 17.6 points a game. Only 82 yards on the ground. If Tampa Bay wants to beat the Chiefs, it's going to have to be through passing. But unfortunately, they're down Godwin, they're down Evans. I still expect Baker Mayfield to be able to get his yardage. He's shown, no matter who they're down, he's going to find the open guy. He has elevated the team so far this season. But those are two massive losses. It's going to rear its head in this game. Looking at the rosters here, you have Baker Mayfield, you have Irving, and then you just have a wide receiver core, young guys having to step up. For Kansas City, they have Mahomes, they have Hunt, Kelsey, Worthy. They still have the playmakers on the field. They're going to have the short field here. I have Kansas City cruising to win 30-20, but I wish Tampa Bay was fully healthy because that would have made this a really fun game. So that's our breakdown. That's our predictions for Week 9 of the 2024 NFL football season. Make sure to hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe. If you have any comments, please drop them below and I will respond. Thank you.